Hi y'all, I'm Amber and today I'm going to be reviewing Dune by Frank Herbert. Dune is a complex story that deals in politics, environmentalism, religion, and adventure. It's about Paul Atreides, who is part of a noble family, and after a betrayal, he is trying to avenge his noble family, I guess. There's a lot more to the story than that. You have the fact that they're basically trying to take over Arrakis, another planet, and the Freemen, you have the Harkonnens who are part of the whole betrayal thing, and then you have the whole social structure with the Emperor and the great families and stuff like that, which is why Dune is so complex, is because there's all these parts to it. I had a hard time getting into the book at the beginning because of the world building. I found it hard for me to understand the world. It took me about 3 chapters to get into the world just because all these terms that I didn't understand. The planets, the world itself was just a little confusing to me, and I think that's partly because it is basically my first science fiction. This is classic science fiction, so I'm used to more science fiction in the way of Ender's Game, which I feel is more lighter and much easier for me to understand, but this was a little bit harder. But once I got into it, once I was able to grasp it, the story moved much quicker and easily for me. It is split into 3 books, or parts if you rather call that: Dune, Muad'Dib, and The Prophet. The first part, Dune, was the best part in this book. I felt that there was a really good balance between the political and the action. It was just a well-balanced thing going on where I felt that things were moving at a really good pace. I was enjoying it, I was enthralled, I was captivated. I just found that part very exciting. But once I got into the second part or book, Muad'Dib, I found myself having to force myself to turn the page. It was so slow. I found the way that it was written here was just dull. I found it dry. And then we get to the third part, our book, The Prophet, and everything became rushed, and the ending just happened in a very rushed manner. Overall, the book was very unbalanced in the pacing, and it was frustrating to me because I did enjoy the story. I really liked the world once I got into it, and if it hadn't been for the pacing, I might have been able to enjoy this book much more. The other issue I had with this book that made it harder for me to enjoy it was the fact that I couldn't connect with the characters. Paul is the protagonist of this book, and yet I felt a disconnect, and a lot of it I felt had to do with the fact that when I first began reading, I thought he was an 8-year-old, and it wasn't until almost 50% in that I actually realized that he was 15. And that was just because someone actually mentioned his age. And I don't know if Herbert actually did that on purpose, like he wanted us to think of him as that until that moment. But I did feel like it was an issue because it brought a disconnect, and once I found out that he was 15, I had to readjust my view on Paul, because I thought he was a kid, so my picture of him in my mind was a kid, and then I had to kind of readjust everything, and that took me out of the reading. It's just really annoying to have to deal with that. I think that he should have been able to drop the age somewhere, somehow, at the beginning, so that I would have at least understood that he was 15 years old, but this was just how he was being raised, that his lifestyle and everything affected maturity level. It wasn't until the second part that I actually felt he was acting his age, that he sounded his age. But Paul himself is a complex character, and I think it's just because of the motives that he had. Once we got past the first part and he started acting the 15-year-old, I could see the complexities of his characters definitely shining through, with his motives in why he was doing what he was doing, how he was going by it. Was it selfish? Was it unselfish? Or was it a combination of both? And there is an argument about Paul's motives, and I think that for me, it is both, and I like that Paul was a complex character. Overall, I really did enjoy the book to a point. Like, there's all these issues, but the story itself was fascinating. The world was fascinating, and the politics and the environment and how complex the story was fascinating. But there was just too many issues for me to be able to really completely and absolutely enjoy this book. So I gave Dune by Frank Herbert 3 stars. And unfortunately, I will not be continuing the Dune Chronicles. I know a lot of people love Dune, and I understand why. I can see why they do. So if you're one of those people who love Dune, tell me down below your reasons for why you loved it. Thank you all for watching, and keep warm.